UN workers evacuated from Tripoli has arrived in a military airport outside Rome. They include Italians and other European Union citizens. They were flown back on 2 Italian military transport planes mobilized by the country's Foreign Ministry Emergency Unit. And of course, there are hundreds, thousands of people flooding out across the borders of Libya into neighbouring countries. Let's speak to António Guterres, the UN's High Commissioner for Refugees, who joins us from Geneva. Thank you very much indeed for speaking with us. Thousands fleeing Libya. Just how serious is the refugee situation?
Well, for the moment, we had about 40,000 people crossing both the Tunisian border and the Egyptian border. The large majority are Tunisian citizens and Egyptian citizens going back to their countries of origin. But we are having some Libyans crossing too, and we are having also nationals from other countries. And what we are very, very much worried about is with the fact that a lot of people are trapped inside the area of Tripoli. They cannot escape, and we are witnessing a carnage. We are witnessing a terrible bloodshed, and in the worst affected areas there is not even a possibility to flee. We also know of Libyans that tried to cross the border into Tunisia, and the Libyan forces around the border were still controlled by the government, not allowing them to flee. So that is indeed a big concern for us, is that people are suffering horribly, and those that are really suffering horribly are not being able to flee, and we have not the capacity to assist them.
We're also hearing reports that black Africans who are living in Libya are now afraid of going out of their homes for fear of being mistaken for the black mercenaries that Gaddafi is using. Are you hearing similar reports?
Yes, it's absolutely true. Unfortunately, there are a certain number of mercenaries and many innocent people that were working in Libya are being targeted and feel threatened because of this confusion. We have witnessed also, namely the Egyptian border, people coming from different African countries, and they were channeled by the Egyptian authorities to the embassies of the countries. And we are naturally very attentive to the possible crossing of refugees coming from countries where they cannot go back because they might be persecuted in their own countries, to make sure that there is a solution for them. And I would like to make an appeal to, if I may make an appeal to the international community. I think it's very important to give massive support to Egypt and to Tunisia. The people and the government of these two countries are showing an enormous generosity, opening the borders and accepting everybody. They need support from the international community, and I hope that the international community will be able to mobilize that support. In between, unfortunately, we are not able to do anything in Libya because of the dramatic security situation there. But at least in Tunisia and in Egypt, we need a lot of international support.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about what kind of support those countries are getting. Also about the concerns from European countries like Malta or Italy that they could be inundated by refugees from Libya. How are you addressing that?
Well, I think that first of all we need to be concerned with the Libyan people that is suffering, that the Libyans that are being killed in this terrible disaster. Then I think to recognize that the burden essentially in Tunisia and in Egypt. Of course, there is a possibility of people going into Europe, and if that is the case, I'm confident that Europe will honor its obligations and international law, that borders will also be open, and the people will be able to be granted protection if they come into the European soil.
There is, of course, a debate now going on amongst international communities about what best to do about the situation.